Good afternoon, old gun guy here. Welcome to my video today on the 44 Winchester centerfire, also known as 4440 Winchester round, and the 1892 Winchester rifle. I have a 120-year-old example here. It's a Saddle Ring carbine. It was manufactured in 1904. It's seen a lot of use and wear. It is not a pristine example, but it functions very good, very fine. We'll go into the ammo first, a round, and then we will go into the rifle itself. The 44 Winchester centerfire was released by Winchester in 1873, 151 years ago. Pistol caliber, it was designed for their 1873 lever action rifle, which was an improvement on the earlier 1866 Winchester, which fired a 44 rimfire, I believe. It was designed in a black powder era. It was a black powder cartridge. That year, three famous cartridges, which exist to this day, came out: the 4570 and the 45 Colt. In the late 19th century, the naming conventions for the ammunition were generally the caliber, the powder charge, and then sometimes the third number was the bullet weight. This was, like I said, released by Winchester, but it became immediately popular with the other firearm manufacturers. Colt released their single-action army revolvers, which also come out the same year, 1873, in this caliber. Other manufacturers of various actions didn't want to give Winchester the advertising by calling it Winchester centerfire, hence the name 4440 came. Same cartridge, just two different names. And 4440 is what has stuck until this day. It's a strange little case. It's got a slight bottleneck to it, very, very slight. It might be easier to see in an empty case. Slight bottleneck, and which aided in feeding in the lever guns. The cartridge is loaded with 200 grain bullet, so sometimes it's referred 4440-200. Sometimes you'll hear the 4570, 45 caliber, 70 grains of black powder, 500 grain bullet, 4570, 500. That's how it was originally loaded. The 45 Colt never was in a black powder era too, and never used them naming conventions. But that's just a little aside. Is survived into the smokeless powder era. It fires a 427 thousandths of an inch projectile diameter, slightly smaller by 2 thousandths of an inch than the modern 44 Special, 44 Magnum. The black powder loadings of the day was out of a 20-inch rifle, 1,250 feet a second, and out of a handgun about 900 feet a second. Had good performance, and became, like I said, became immensely popular on the frontier. People could have a rifle and a pistol chambered in the same caliber, and this is a single action clone. This is a Ruger Vaquero. This is actually a 45 Colt, but this is the same pistol that Colt released in 4440 and 45 Colt. But the average cowboy or frontiersman could have a rifle and a pistol chambered in the same caliber, which simplified logistics on the wagon trails there as people are heading west. It operates at 11,000 psi, pounds per square inch, very low pressure, almost the pressure of a modern shotgun. You know, modern 12 or 20 gauge shotgun operates in that in that vicinity. It's a 200 grain lead flat nose projectile, obviously because it goes in a tubular magazine. Blunt nose. The rifling twists vary from 1 turn and 20 inches to one turn and 36 inches. Very slow twist. With projectiles that are short and blunt, you don't need a fast twist to stabilize them. Modern, long and heavy for caliber bullets, like say a 77 grain 5.56 round, needs a 1 in 7 twist to stabilize it, or 1 in 8 twist, as does some of the modern long range cartridges. This is much more sedate. It makes one in every 36 inches of travel makes one complete revolution of the bullet, as opposed to the other rifling twists. That's what's being referred to. Being a pistol cartridge, all pistol cartridges range from say 3 to 10 minutes of angle. Their shot disbursement at 100 yards. They're basically close range cartridges. The 4440 is been made in many guns. I did a video on a 141 Remington Game Master and 35 Remington. They had a smaller model, 141 and a half, or model 14 and a half. They actually chambered it in this cartridge, a 4440. Colt Lightning had in the 1880s, had a slide action, a pump action rifle. They also chambered the 4440, as did many other manufacturers. I'm sure Marlin did. But it says very fine cartridge. It is said the only other cartridge that has killed more deer than a 4440 is the 30 Winchester centerfire, which also is known as the 30-30 Winchester. Another thing in another reference book, I have Cartridges of the World. It's been said the 4440 has killed more game, large and small, and more people, good and bad, than any other cartridge in history. And there might be something to that. We're using, like I said, settling the West, the westward movement. And the 1873 Winchester was basically called the gun that won the West, the lever action. It preceded the 1892 that we're going to talk about today. Much weaker action, so you can't really load the 4440 up for that. Modern hand loads in an 1892 Winchester, because the action's very strong, and clones of it are made today, and I'll go into that in a rifle, but the cartridge can be loaded up to about 1,800 feet a second with a 200 grain jacketed bullet. Make a much better hunting round. The guns used in many of the westerns, movies and TV shows, and in fact John Wayne's actual gun, his 1892 Winchesters, were chambered in 4440. His handgun was 45 Colt, but the lever guns are all 4440 because the bottleneck cartridge, the blank ammunition, fed better in the rifles, whereas the Colt is a straight walled case, and it's not as it won't feed as easy. The blank cartridges at the time they had. Centerfire cartridge, rimmed. The rim is like non-standard. It's a little bit bigger than a 44 Special, 44 Magnum, but it went obsolete for a couple of decades. Went into obscurity. The advent of cowboy action shooting, which I participate in sometimes, has brought this cartridge back, and it's many clones and reproduction of firearms are chambered in this round now today. The last American rifle chambered in the 4440, American made, was about 1937, or the advent of World War II. I'll go into the rifle now. This is a 1892 Winchester. I'll give you a close-up. Notice all the finish is just about gone. The severe patina on it. I'll do a close-up on it. hard to see. Put my readers on so I can see the screen here. I don't know if it's going to show up here. It says 44 WCF, Winchester Centerfire. You also notice the rear sight. It folds. It's a ladder sight. Folds up, and you have an adjustment that goes up and down with various gradations, but they don't correspond to yardage. It's got a very fine, the rear sight's a very fine U-notch. Very hard to see with old eyes anyway. The front sight, very fine, very thin blade. 20-inch barrel. The gentleman I acquired this off of was in his family for a long time. Spent his time, a lot of time in a rifle scabbard on a horse, on a ranch. And it looks it. Like I said, it's 120 years old. Functions fine. It is a saddle ring carbine. Has this little saddle ring here for like a lanyard. I put the leather on the loop. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera. Model 1892 Winchester. Made in trademark, U.S. patent, But after 1920, there was no complete year designation for the model. It became 92 Winchester. Some bean counter in Winchester decided that they could save money by eliminating two numbers. A big deal, I guess. Hammer's a little rough, a little scaling and pitting. Stock's been dinged up pretty good. A lot of character marks in the stock. Like I said, another reason I got it for a good deal. But as beat up as it looks, it functions and shoots fine. Another thing, magazine tube, I don't know if you noticed this here, but this discoloration had a big dent in it, so it only hold about 4 or 5 cartridges. I had to take the whole gun apart, heat this up with a torch, and run an automotive socket on extension down here and iron the magazine tube back out. So now it does hold 10 shots again. And I'll demonstrate that on the shooting demos. The 92 is very strong action. These are the locking bars. Okay. And as the bolt goes forward, they cam behind a bolt here. And this action is so strong, in fact, it can handle modern cartridges like 44 Magnum and 454 Casole. Like I said, Winchester produced 1,007,000 of these. Is the King's Gate, side gate where you load it. They produced the millionth rifle was produced from 1892, 1932. The number 1 million came off the assembly line. The Great Depression occurred, and I think they stopped producing this right just before World War II, and they made another 7,000 in the 30s. That's how bad the economy was. No one had money. Winchester never produced this again after the war. So the original Winchester company in New Haven went away in 2006 finally. I mean, in 1980 it went bankrupt. They sold it to the employees. The employees screwed it up. It became in the 90s, I think FN bought it, and they retained manufacturing up there in New Haven until about 2006. They do produce this firearm again, not in America though, it's made in Japan. Miraku produces it for the Winchester brand that Browning owns, or FN, Fabrique Nationale, owns Browning and Winchester. There have been clones made over the years, and my little Rossi here is a 1892 Winchester clone. Same action, same locking bars, top of the bolt. This is in 44 Magnum. I use this for velocity comparison in my 44 Magnum revolver video. This got a 16-inch barrel, very handy little carbine, very light. But Rossi makes them. I think Chiappa in Italy, and Browning has on and off over the years, clones. But the real Winchesters, they never appeared after World War II. So it was made for 1892 to, I see two different dates, 1937 or advent of World War II, 1941. But the action's very smooth on this gun. It's pretty accurate for a beat up old lever gun, pistol caliber lever gun. The bore is very clean on this gun, as beat up as it looks. Like I said, this was carried a lot in a scabbard on ranch duty. You know, the modern cowboys had checking fence lines, and if they had to dispatch a predator, take it out of scabbard. But it shows its character marks, and takes away nothing from the functioning. It's kind of cool to have a firearm that was made when Teddy Roosevelt was the president, and a good old piece of American history. In popular culture, John Wayne carried it in all of his movies, a 1892 Winchester. And Hollywood did that because they were a lot easier to, in the 30s, they were still, easy to acquire, and they stocked up on them. But like I said, John Wayne's in all his movies with a 44-40 lever gun, and he used both standard lever, and a friend of his was a stunt guy, Yakima Canutt, I think his name was, a gunsmith too. Made the famed loop lever you might have seen in True Grit, the original one. Chuck Connors, a TV show, The Rifleman, had a loop lever 92 that he used to just blast away. And Steve McQueen, Wanted Dead or Alive, had one of these cut down. They call it mare's leg, sawed off 92, and various reproductions. You can get a modern. The Italian-made guns are very fine, and so is these Rossi. I've never had a problem with the Rossis. They had quality problems, I guess, early on. This one might be 10 or 12 years old or whatever, but it shoots good. It's well made, and fine little gun. As far as the original here, 1 36-inch rifling twist, very sedate, 20-inch barrel, weighs 6 pounds, holds 10 shots in the magazine tube, holds 1 shot in the action. Obviously, you can't mount the scope because it's top eject. You'd have to fix something to the side. Not that you would do that with a pistol caliber or carbine, basically what it is. Deer rifle, sure. Out to 75 or 100 yards. The sights, like I said, if I had younger eyes, I would have no hesitation taking a 100-yard shot. But these days, maybe 50 yards. And it's just very fuzzy when the older you get. But I'm going to put it through its. Shooting test. Oh, I forgot to mention the calibers. That's why I had a little note here. 44-40, 38-40, which is a slightly smaller version. It's actually 40 caliber. It's not 38 caliber. The 38-40. This came in 2 other calibers: 25-20, 25 caliber, 20 grains of black powder, and 32-20. I think the 44-40 was probably the most popular caliber of the series, and it probably followed by the 38-40. Useful cartridge hunting, self-defense. Obviously a 44 caliber projectile doing 1,200 feet a second. It's got almost 700 foot-pounds of energy. I got 2 kinds of ammo here. This is actually 205 grain projectile. It's Hornady Cowboy 44-40. It says muzzle 725. I guess out of a handgun. Test that over the chronograph. I got some of this Black Hills here. It shows up. I wrote on the back of the box. I must have. Yeah, I think I chronographed it before. 1,100 feet a second, I wrote. but who knows? We'll run it over the screens. Do an accuracy test at 100 yards with it off the bench. I'll shoot some steel plates with it. I'll do a thermal effects test. Plink some steel. I'll shoot my car door and a few other things, and then I'll come back for the summary. The overall impression. I do enjoy shooting this. I've shot this in some cowboy action shooting matches. I have another lever gun that I use, more modern, Marlin. This I only did for a few times just for laughs. But I don't want to beat it up too much. I do enjoy, like I said, shooting it. The bore is in very good condition, and are the guts and mechanics of it. And like I said, just a fine old piece of American history. With that, we'll go to the. Speaking of Chuck Connors, before I forget, I remember when I was a kid, Leonid Brezhnev, the head of the Soviet Union, came to meet Richard Nixon, and Chuck, he was a big fan of the Rifleman, and Chuck Connors gave him a duplicate of the rifle he used in the show there, the loop lever 1892 Winchester. Nice little side note with this, firearm here. But with that, we'll get to the demonstrations, and then we'll wrap it up in a summary. Okay, at the Chronograph with our 120-year-old Winchester 1892 and 40 or 44 Winchester centerfire. I'm going to do 3 shots with the Black Hills cowboy ammo, 200 grain lead flat point, and I'll do 3 shots of this Hornady 4440 cowboy loads. First up will be the Black Hills, followed by the Hornady, and I'll put the camera on the Chronograph, and we'll take the shots. Black Hills, first up. $1,021, $1,028, $1,021 again. Next up, the Hornady. 974. 917. 932. Okay. That'll conclude our little Chronograph demo. I should have changed strings between the two, but I'll just sort them in the editing. On to the next test. Okay, I'm just going to plink some steel plates. I got 6 rounds loaded in this rifle. The round plates are about 25 yards from me. The torso is about 50 yards. I'll go back and forth. The 50-yard one, the torso one, makes the loudest clang, but give it a shot. And I'll do the same thing, but with just the camera and the rifle cycling. And I'll shoot at the longer torso so you can hear it on camera. Do that next. Okay, I'm going to take 5 shots. Basically, you show the rifle cycling. It's got next to no recoil. Very pleasant to shoot. All right. And that's the very smooth running, very old Winchester 1892 saddle ring. Okay, just because I feel like it, I'm going to get 9 or 10 shots in the rifle. I'm going to shoot various steel plates and just demonstrate how the old Winchester does. Put my ears on and get the rifle. I'm going to try the 100-yard. I'm going to have to aim a little high. No such luck. And the pepper popper. There's one at about 80 yards. Oh, we're out. And that'll do our little plinking demo with this 120-year-old rifle. I don't know if I mentioned it, but Winchester 1892. I don't know if it shows up on the screen, but they stopped putting the 4 numbers 1920 and later, so it became a model 92 after 1920. Okay, on to the next demo. Okay, at the 100-yard target, I'm going to use a 6 o'clock hold on this rifle, the 1892 Winchester. Very tiny sights. Like I said, 6 o'clock hold. We'll see where they print. 120-year-old Winchester, 1895. This camera's got an internal mic, so it's a little lower. I'm just going to zoom it in and go back to the shooting bench. Okay, zoom out. See what we got here. One, two, three. All right. 2 must have went low. I'm going to try a center hold. I'm going to do that again. So I'll just zoom in on it. These were previously shot, the little 22 caliber holes. You can obviously see the 44 caliber. And pistol bullets as a rule, anywhere from 5 to 10 MOA. So, as opposed to rifle bullets. So, let me zoom in, we'll go back and do another 5. use a dead center hold. Zoom the camera out. Looks like I had 7 out of 10 there, and that could be just to my old eyes, but it looks like they're going low. So if I had a put this up here a little bit. We had 1250 feet a second loads, which are what them sights are regulated to. Would have been printing up around here, but 200 feet a second means drop at 100 yards. But there's enough hits there with an old ancient lever gun. Still does the job. All the bullets are stabilized. And okay, this is the overview. 5 shots of this Black Hills cowboy ammunition, 200 grain flat point. I don't know if that shows up. Very small sights. Little tiny U-notch. That shot. Another 5 shots, center hold. I only had 3 hits on the paper at 6 o'clock. I might have shot under the target. The sights are very fine, and these old eyes. So we try it again. Let's see. Loading the old 1892 to the ancient King's Gate. Get the last one. Let's see. Okay. Put on quarter cock, put my ears on, take our shots. And the last one coming up. All right, now back at the terminal effects test. I'm going to shoot the 20-inch barreled Winchester 1892, made in 1904. This is made when Teddy Roosevelt was the president. This is the ammunition, Black Hills 4440 Winchester 200 grain flat nose solid projectile. 6-inch water jug, 3/4 inch piece of plywood. The previous hits are marked with orange paint. Another water jug. That's just a witness board between the third water jug, the second and third. 3/4 inch piece of ply behind the water jug number 3, water jug number 4, and a witness board, and see if we can capture the projectile. I'm going to zoom in on the target, load the gun, and get my ears. Okay, I'm back. It actually went through 5 water jugs. I did not recover the projectile, but I'll bring them up one at a time. Alright, number 1, it entered there where it split. Drilled a clean hole out the back of it, number 1. These were previously marked. This is where it went through the first 3/4 inch piece of plywood, in and out. Nice clean hole. Second water jug, in, split it, clean hole out. This clean witness board, I'm going to clean through that, in and out. That's the entrance. That's the exit. Jug number 3 went in there. Come out the back. Did split jug number 3. That's where it went in. That's where it exited. The second piece of plywood. Okay, it went in the water jug number 4, traversed it, and went out right there. So in and out, and then I put a hole. That's the exit. That's a witness board. Went in, or a chunk of it went in and went through. And lastly, it entered water jug number 5, and a chunk, or a big chunk of it, traversed the water jug and shot it. For a mild-mounted round, it's got a lot of penetration. It's only doing a little over 1,000 feet a second, 1,025 feet a second. Solid 200 grain projectile. Obviously, you could take deer with it, and many deer have been taken with that round. Over the century and a half it's been in existence. Basically 75 to 100 yard max deer cartridge. And I believe, I read it somewhere, the quote was, the only cartridge that's taken more deer than the 4440 or the 44 Winchester centerfire is the 30 Winchester centerfire, also known as the 3030. And it's a pretty amazing stat. So with that, on to the next test. Test demo. All right, I'm gonna shoot the car door. These rifles were popular with lawmen throughout the decades. These would have been around the Great Depression also. Sheriffs, police departments had them. I'm gonna aim about 6 inches above the 44 mag hole. I started marking them. There's a door handle there. See if it impedes it. Got our bad guy behind it. I'll zoom in on the door. And the other camera's running from the backside. And let's see what it looks like. All right. Like I said, about 5-6 inches above the 44 Magnum. All right. Let's see what we have. Yep, looks like it went right through. It went right through the door handle. Knocked the door handle off. I'll just pull the target and looks like the bullet split the two chunks and penetrated the target. You can see it busted up on the back side of the door. The other camera zoomed in on that. So that'll be it for the shooting demonstrations with our 1892 Winchester Saddle Ring carbine, 4440 or 44 Winchester centerfire. Manufactured when Teddy Roosevelt was president. And we'll go to the summary. Let's see what we have. Yep, looks like it went right through. Yep. You see where it hit the door handle. And okay, I'm back from the summary on our 4440 cartridge and Winchester 1892 rifle, manufactured in 1904. This has the original ladder sight. It's a small U-notch buckhorn, if you will, and this slides up. It's very loose though. I'd have to stake it to make it useful. One thing I neglected to mention in the opening, John Browning, worked with Winchester, and he designed many firearms. He was a genius. He designed this one too. Winchester wanted a pistol caliber carbine to replace their 1873, and I think Marlin, I forget what rifle Marlin came out with, but there's a competition going on, and Browning says, "I'll have it done in a month, otherwise it's free. You won't have to pay me anything." He actually had it in 2 weeks. Basically what he did is he took the 1886 Winchester, which is a much larger frame rifle, same action, these locking bars back of the bolt, they cam up, and he scaled it down to this size, this handy little carbine, and did it in 2 weeks, had a prototype, and obviously Winchester paid him, as they should have. They were lucky to have such a guy, such a brilliant engineer and designer. In fact, the patent on this rifle, it's barely visible. It wouldn't show up on camera. Manufactured by the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, USA. Patent number, it's 1884, the patent number. I can't make out the, October 19th it looks like, 1884. So the 1886, model 1886, that was the patent. That's what this is referring to. It's the same gun, just scaled down into the handy little carbine. That's one thing I forgot in the introduction. Things slip my mind. I try and cover them either in the shooting segments or in the introduction. or things will pop into my head. As far as the cartridge, any hand loaders out there, this is my load, the Cowboy Action shooting load, Trail Boss powder, which is very hard to get anymore, but I like it because it fills the whole case up, as opposed to other powders. 6.9 grains of Trail Boss, 200 grain lead flat nose, CCI primer, overall length 1.585 inches, and I think it yields about 850 feet a second velocity, 850 to 900, or maybe a little more than a rifle. I'm sorry, I didn't write the velocity on that box, but it may be 950 or so. But it's a nice, light, pleasant shooting load. If you do hand load the 4440, useful bullet weights, I think I've seen some Cowboy Action projectiles at 160 grains. 180 to 220, that's basically the range of normal projectiles you're going to find for the, useful in the 4440. The sweet spot obviously being the original 200 grain projectile. Can this action stand, hot loads? Absolutely. No factory loads hot 4440 loads, because over the decades people have put them in, black powder or older firearms and blew them up. So now they just make the low pressure original loading. It's basically, like the Black Hills I was shooting out a rifle, 1,050 feet a second. It's even shy of the black powder loading. With hand loads, would I load even though the gun could take it, the action could take it, would I load it up that hot? No. I have a 44 Magnum if I want to do that. Or, same gun, 44 Magnum. Get a modern rifle and 44 Magnum and do that. Not a fine old classic like this. Some people might say, that's not a fine old classic, it's beat up. I don't know. To me, it's kind of Americana gold. We went through the chronograph. I wrote them down. The average for the Hornady Cowboy was 940 feet a second. 205 grain projectile translates to 398 foot-pounds of energy. And the Black Hills was 1,024 average for 3 shots, and that's 466 energy foot-pounds. Mild load, and they're making it, Cowboy Action ammo. You don't want heavy recoiling loads in a handgun because it's a speed game, shooting steel and such, timed. Went to the accuracy test, 100 yards. Actually, I hit the paper the first time 4 times. And the second round, I hit 5. But there's 9 holes out of 10, the 10 shots I took. And like I said, with these old eyes, if the light ain't right, I don't know if I can put this on camera, but the sight is extremely fine. And the U-notch in the rear is extremely fine. And as these sights are regulated, allegedly, that, the folded, and the ladder is folded with the U-notch in the back there, it's supposed to be regulated 100 yards black powder loading and 200 yards for a smokeless powder loading. But I don't know what the velocities are. It was never mentioned. As far as the ladder sight, you'd have to individually, I'd have to crimp this somehow so it would stay fixed. As soon as you shoot, it just goes up and down. It's very loose. It moves up and down. It doesn't, really lock. It's kind of cool though. I think I was holding a 6 o'clock hold on the first part of the accuracy demonstration off the bench, 100 yards. And then I went to a center hold. If I was using ammo that was spec'd out at 1,250 feet a second, the stuff I was shooting is 225 to 250 feet per second less velocity than what the sights were regulated for. So I was shooting low. But even that said, stabilized old bullets that 1 in 36 twist. I had a hit up here. All these other hits are 223 rounds. That's why I use this target over. So, easily distinguishable 40 .3 caliber from .22 caliber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I fired 10 shots, one of them off the paper. I didn't see this one at first. I think that was in the first 4. I'd have to look at the video again. But basically they're all in the C zone except for this one and the one I missed. Not bad with old eyes in the shadows of the woods here, and very tiny, very fine sights. But it still get the job done today. 120 years old. I did a terminal effects test. 6 inches of water, 3/4 inch piece of plywood, another jug of water, 6 inch piece of plywood, a witness board, another jug, another piece of plywood. Now plywood was at the end. Basically the lead projectile, 1,025 feet a second, blew up the first jug, punched a hole through it, punched right through the plywood. I don't have the plywood with me, but it went through 2 sheets of plywood, 3/4 inch plywood. Another water jug, another sheet of plywood, another water jug, witness board. I think the bullet started breaking up, but it actually deflated 5 water jugs. It penetrated 2 complete 3/4 inch sheets of plywood in between the water jugs. That's more than adequate penetration for any game animal. Would I choose this to shoot elk or moose? This wouldn't be my first choice, but people have killed elk and moose with this rifle and killed a lot of them. And lots of deer, coyotes, predators, and like the Cartridges of the World book said, more people, good and bad, than can be imagined. Firearms just a tool. This is a very handy, useful tool to throw in a scabbard. Obviously, if you have a modern rendition of this, I wouldn't be bouncing this around the pickup truck anymore, or on a horse. But it serves a purpose. The terminal effects test, obviously, game animal or self-defense, it's going to have more than adequate penetration with a 44 caliber 200 grain projectile. Could you defend your home and your house with this? Absolutely. Lever action pretty fast once you play with it, practice with it. I don't want to be losing my 44 40 brass because it's hard acquiring, and I do reload it. So I was shooting slower, so the cases are dropping by me. I can pick them up. I only lost 1 case in all the demonstrations, so that ain't too bad. They get lost in the forest floor. The terminal effects test, I did the steel plates, 25 to 50 yards, ping, ping, ping. I missed 1 or 2, but that was me just, losing focus on the front sight because they're very hard to see in the shadows. Really a pleasure to shoot. It's fun, light. Recoil is very negligible. I think you can see that on the videos. It's very. It's kind of like shooting my Rossi with 44 special loads, the 44 Magnum gun. Very light recoiling gun. Balance is nice. That's why we're so popular. Used by lawmen, since its advent in 1892, all the way up until, I guess, the 40s, Many police departments, sheriff's departments had these inventory. These were used, there's a lot of gangsters in the 30s that were engaged with these by lawmen. The Thompson was the famous, gun of the year, but this one of these type of rifles with a workhorse or law enforcement. That and my Model 8 I had in an earlier video. Used by many cowboy movies, just about every cowboy movie. This rifle came along at the end of the frontier era, at the closing of the West, say the last decade of it, and but it was used in many cowboy movies because it was much more available, and at the time the movies were made, less valuable than the older 1873, the original Winchesters, and these are more durable. 1873 is a good gun, but this is much more robust action. And you know, if you run across one, you inherit one, you say, well, I got this old gun, look, it looks like a piece of junk. Looks aside, it's as functional as anything you can buy in the store today. You can buy a lever action carbine, a Marlin. Actually, the new Marlin that Ruger's making. Ruger, I understand, straightened the Marlin out after it was destroyed by the hedge fund company. I believe they're making a pistol caliber 1894s again. The 1894s you can mount a scope because it's got a solid top. These don't. But it's just an open iron sight gun, close range gun. Self-defense, hunting, plinking, mostly plinking I do with it. If you should acquire one, it strikes your fancy, you won't be disappointed. There's obviously Winchester collectors that collect all kind of, Winchesters. And I shoot everything I got. I like guns I shoot. I don't just leave them in a cabinet to look at. They're meant to be used. Like, you got a classic car, meant to be driven, not put on a trailer and dragged around for show and tell. But that's just me. Like I said, after 1920, no more 1892. Or if you had a Winchester 1897 shotgun, after that it became 97, model 97 instead of 1897. And that was done to save money, believe it or not. I don't know how much more money they saved by eliminating two numbers, but it's a roll stamp anyway. But that's what they did. With that, if you like this, I'm sorry, the car door. Almost forgot about that. I'm rambling on. Shot the car door. Obviously this would have been used by lawmen in the Great Depression. It actually hit the handle. I was aiming for the handle, internal handle. The bullet split in half, and this thing I'm using is shrapnel in here, but there's two chunks of bullet that shows up. One here, one here. Well, a chunk of steel and a bullet. Well, half a bullet and half a bullet, but it broke apart in the door, and I think I captured that on the video. That's just a little side demonstration for as long as I got that door. I started marking the other rounds that hit it: the 35 Remington, the 44 Mag, the 9mm, 223, not a 4440. But with that, that's my video today on a 4440 or 44 Winchester centerfire cartridge. And the very fine, very old 1892 Winchester. One of John Browning's beauties. Another thing, because lots of stuff skips my mind, the only safety in this gun is a quarter cock notch. Or you can call it half cock if you want, but it's only a quarter. That's full cock, and that's obviously you're firing it. But if you have a round in the chamber, you put it on quarter cock, it should prevent it from discharging if you drop the rifle. But you should leave the chamber empty when you're running around the woods, unless you're ready to shoot something, and just chamber around real quick. That's the only thing I forgot to mention on that. That, and this is not original to the gun, the sling swivel. That was placed by whoever had it, and the original swivel would have been here for a sling. But like I said, it was a saddle gun for a long time. With that, if you like the content, like, subscribe, and I make these when I get a chance. This is Old Gun Guy. Have a good day.